Okay, this is question 9 of 6.2, and this is a chapter on odds. So this question reads, suppose the odds of the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup are 1 to 5, while the odds of the Montreal Canadiens winning the Stanley Cup are 2 to 13. What are the odds in favor of either Toronto or Montreal winning the Stanley Cup? Okay, so again, just like the previous questions, we're going to remind ourselves of the definition of odds, and we're going to think about how we're going to do this. So, like I mentioned, when you see odds, what you're going to do or think about is turning odds into probability. You're going to think about doing this. But, why do you want to do this? Well, you know how to work with probability. Probabilities are easier to work with than odds. But the question is basically giving us two odds and asking us to find an odds, and specifically in favor of either Toronto or Montreal winning the Stanley Cup. So we're going to take the odds that were given and turn them into probability. Much like I think the previous video, much like the previous video, which is question 8, we're going to do that by adding our x and y, and that's going to be our denominator, and then in the numerator we are going to put an x. This is for odds in favor. And if you don't understand this, I recommend you watch the video for number 8, because there I go a little bit more in depth into how we get probability from odds. But the abridged version is, let me define my events. I'm going to let T be the event that the Toronto Maple Leafs win, and then I'm going to let C, or actually no, I'll make it M. I'm going to let M be the event where the Montreal Canadiens win. Okay, so because they give us 1 to 5 odds, we know that there is one outcome where the Leafs win, and then there are 1 plus 5 outcomes in total, because you have 5 outcomes where the Leafs don't win, 1 outcome where they do win, so your total number of outcomes is, your total number of outcomes is 6, which is 1 plus 5, which is 6. Okay, so the probability that the Leafs win is going to be 1 over 6. And we do something similar with the Canadiens. So there are 2 outcomes where they win, and then in total there are 2 plus 13 outcomes, which is going to give you 2 over 15. So now we have the probability of the Leafs winning and the Montreal winning. We have both of these probabilities. And this question is asking us to find the odds in favor of either team winning. Well, now that we've turned these into probabilities, we can find probability of T or M, or in other words, T union M. And that's pretty easy because there's only one winner of the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's a tournament. It's like sports. You're only ever going to get one team or person in first place. So these two are mutually exclusive events, which means that we're just allowed to add the probabilities together. Because you can't have 2 winners, you can only have 1. So we're just going to add these probabilities together. And if you do this, then you get, 30 is our denominator, we get 5 over here, and then 4 over here. This will be 9 over 30. So let's simplify this. This will be 3 over 10. Okay, great, cool. Now we need to turn this into odds, because we have the probability of either Toronto or Montreal winning. We don't have the odds of either Toronto or Montreal winning. So we have to turn this into a probability. How do we do that? Right, we have to turn this into odds. How do we do that? Well, we remember, and I really hope I still have it. Yes, I do. Aha, perfect. We remember fundamental equation of probability, which is this. I think you might all be sick of seeing this, but I don't care. You cannot be sick of seeing this because you need to know it. Because when it comes to probability, you can never get away from that, from this equation. But anyway, this equation is just saying it's the number of outcomes of a certain event divided by the number of total outcomes. That's what this is saying. So we know that there's 3 scenarios where either the Leafs win or the Montreal Canadiens win, or the Canadiens win. And then we also know that there are 10 outcomes in total. So what we need to do, or what we need when it comes to turning the probability into odds, is we need the number of outcomes where an event occurs. We already have that. That's 3. We know that there are 3 outcomes where either the Leafs or the Montreal Canadiens win. And we need to put that in a ratio against number of times or outcomes where an event doesn't occur. We don't have this yet, but this is pretty easy to find because we know that there are 10 events in total. Out of them, 10, did I say events? I mean outcomes. We know there are 10 outcomes in total. Out of those 10 outcomes, 3 events or 3 outcomes are where the Leafs or Canadiens win. So if I do 10 minus 3, then I get 7. And 7 of those outcomes, 7 out of those 10 outcomes are where the Leafs or Canadiens don't win. So that is going to be my Y. And 3 is going to be my X. We can also kind of use this equation. We can kind of use this equation up here on that fraction. So here, I'll show you how that works. We can just compare the numerators and denominators. So we can compare, for the numerators, we have a 3 here and we have an X here. So we automatically know that X is 3. And then in the denominators, we have an X plus Y and a 10. Well, we know that X plus Y is 10. But we also know that X is 3. So I can take this X and just replace it with the 3. And la-di-da, we can solve for Y. Y is 7. So this is an alternate way of finding finding Y, finding the number of times or outcomes where an event doesn't occur. No matter how you do it, via the equation, or just using logic like this, no matter how you do it, you're going to find Y. Y is 7. And then you just put your X and Y in a ratio, 3 to 7. That's how you do this question.